There he is. I was wondering when you were gonna log on.
Sorry, I got held up sorting some stuff out.
Why are you wearing a hood?
Because it's easier to animate.
What?
Forget it. What's the front like?
I'm just about to head off.
Been fighting for 3 hours now, but the lodge just delivered some supplies. You got more tickets?
Aye. 200 of them.
200? That's good. I see another hour of pushing, and I reckon we can have the enemy base by tomorrow afternoon. I'll just grab anyone I can and see if we can... What? Ah, don't tell me. Alright. How many rifles have we?
23.
23? When are Logi players going to realise that we need weapons as well as respawn tickets? We're not going to win this war with basic materials alone. Okay, so we've got 200 respawns but only 23 rifles.
Yeah, well, luckily for you, before I leave, I've already put in a request for more weapons. Someone responded and said that they'll be here in about 15 minutes. Are you going?
To help the lads at the front keep the Colonials out. In 15 minutes, the Colonials will be at our front door.
Look with that.
Spawning in at the Baron Ranch, I grabbed my equipment and headed for the front lines of the Heartlands. It wasn't too hard to find, as I could already hear the sound of gunfire coming from the east. Our enemy had trenched their way to our base and were skirmishing to take it back. Equipped with my personal favourite of the Warden weaponry, the Lowcaster. Lowcaster? Anyway, it's a weapon that gives our army the edge in accuracy and reliability. It can also have a greater effect when attacking on open battlefields or even for defending trenches. Following the sound of incoming gunfire, a couple of us decided to try and flank our enemy, who had now advanced into what looked like what remained of our own trenches. One step at a time, as we aimed into the dark, our enemy, knowing that they had been flanked, would attempt to retreat to their own trenches, escaping into the dark. I'm not sure who got that one, but let's just say it was me for story's sake. Taking their equipment, there would be little time for a rest, as our enemy would slowly rally and wipe our attempted advances.
Oh, don't shoot me, don't shoot me, don't shoot me, don't shoot me. There's like fucking 10 collies up there. Yeah, just wait till they come. Just fucking blast them and they fucking get up. It's like 10 collies.
After 5 minutes and no sign of the 10 collies, I eventually grew desperate for a fight and went in with another. Seeing a sudden friendly tank flee to our back line wasn't a good sign. All I could really do was fire into the traces of enemy gunfire, and then dodge what they would return back. After our tank had rallied, me and a group of foot soldiers would follow at its flanks and try and take their trenches as our own. Of course, our enemy are cunning and wouldn't give it away so easily, throwing grenades at our advancements. As quickly as we had taken the trenches, we had lost it, and now the responsibility to hold them was left to two of us. And they weren't making it easy. In an attempt to flank our attacker on the other side of the road, I would bump into more enemy infantry coming from the east. As a frontliner, it's important to take out certain uniforms such as medics, as it only takes one of them to bring back at least an entire squad of 8 injured soldiers. With Sergeant Corner covering my southwest flank, it was a low, but not impossible chance for us to hold this forward position. I think with some hope and courage, we can take on whatever comes our way. Well, I guess hope and courage doesn't do much against fragmentation. After avenging Sergeant Corner, I took his position. I prayed that our enemy would not throw any more grenades our way. Then, a rumble of a tank approaching from the east. I thought we were done for, only for it to be one of ours, somehow. Taking this opportunity, I fired in the direction of our enemy, swaying the tank operator to advance on their position, and clear whatever remained of the soldiers on the other side of the road. Arriving back at base, I made sure to grab as much ammo and weapons as I can from our enemy, and delivering them to whoever would want them, or need them should they attempt another attack. I knew if I rested now, there was a chance that the enemy could still take back their trenches. But I alone cannot win this war, so, instead, I'll wait for reinforcements to arrive. Back online, I was awoken to the sound of artillery fire. Everybody at the ranch was knowing full well that we could lose this base if we didn't have enough builders, and that we would have to take the attack on in. Our tanks were lined up and ready for a morning assault. However, it would be up to the infantry to hold our line from the night raids, at least until sunrise. Unlike our tanks, the enemy armour wasn't afraid of the dark or what lurked within it. We could only hope that our builders could keep up repairing our fortifications after the volleys of tank fire. For now, we could only hold their infantry from taking our forward trenches. Slowly pushing towards a trench with a grenade equipped, I blindly threw it inside a trench where I believed there was once enemy gunfire. Of course, the enemy tanks didn't like what they were seeing, so after pulling back, I accidentally walked into the line of sight of another machine gunner. Retreating, I was lucky to have brought myself some bandages back with me. If you ever plan on attacking any kind of enemy territory on the front lines, make sure to bring bandages. There's not always going to be a medic with you. In return for that sudden unwanted lead intake, I returned the favour by sending him some fragmentation. A short time later, we had taken back our trenches and were now pushing into our enemies. As I was walking through the trenches and noticed the octagons in the trenches, it's no question that they were planning on building some kind of mortars here for an attack. Speaking of mortars, the rumble of their impact sent waves of dust and rubble into the air ahead of me. Seeing friendly soldiers on my right, it was clear that we had successfully pushed our enemy back once again. This time, however, they had held up inside a relic base not too far from our new advanced line. With some determination and grit, our forces could easily take that base and the few soldiers that were still inside it. Of course, our advantage would be lost the moment dawn would break. FOXHOLE often feels like a constant game of tug-of-war. Ground is attacked, then taken, then lost, only to be attacked again, almost often always on the same day. This time I equipped myself with an SMG instead, and began running into our enemy's line of fire. After taking the time to bandage myself back up, it was by a hair of a second that I was able to finish healing and gun down an approaching Colonial. The push so far was going well. We had reclaimed the bulk of our enemy's trenches and were slowly pushing them back towards their relic base. Checking behind me and seeing the line of our tanks setting themselves up for another assault, I knew that in order for them to succeed and get into the relic base, I'd have to get rid of the landmines that the Colonials had placed out before us.
I just wanted to finish off the parties.
Right. That's what I was about to cream them.
Hell yeah.
A handful of mines taken down later, our tanks had made it to the relic base. However, the Colonials were still putting up a fight with their armor-piercing rifles. So long as I made sure that the way forward was clear of mines, our tanks could advance and keep shooting towards the remaining Colonials, holding their failing line. Once the road was clear, I got my SMG back and headed to the attacking line. After passing some of our AP gunners, I saw an opportunity with some other Warden soldiers to flank our enemy and disrupt their rally. Approaching a reconnaissance tower, I took aim at an engineer, stopping his plant repairs. As the tank turned its gun towards me, I hid behind the tower, where I spotted another Colonial soldier firing at our attacking forces. After that embarrassing excuse of an ambush, our Warden forces were able to advance along the left eastern side of the road, and we were now on the opposite side of our enemy relic base. Seeing Sergeant Corner take the trench again, this time he'd brought a heavy machine gun to hold his side of the line. For another valiant push, I thought I could take the enemy base with my SMG. And then I got hit by an RPG. Ow. At some point during my trip back, the enemy relic base was destroyed, and our tanks had finally broken through to our next objective. However, while they were attacking that, ours was to now sweep up what was left of the Colonial forces. Once they were dealt with, I cleared a dilapidated home of what was once a local farmhouse. As I sat down on a nearby bed, I took the time to take some deep breaths, close my eyes, and silently celebrate our successful advancement into the enemy lines. The Colonials were persistent, I'll give them that. Defending our position from scouts trying to flank us was getting harder and harder with each of their push. There were only a few of us defending the northern side of the road, and our enemy were growing in number with each skirmish. Long, precise battles across fields and trenches turned into quick firefights in forests, and a darkness slowly growing near. When nightfall had arrived, I spent most of the night just defending our new relic base from Colonial forces. It had taken days for us to get this far, and I wasn't going to let any enemy forces get close enough to spot the flaws in our defences. The distant sound of artillery and the rumbling of our tanks headed to the front were my lullaby that night. Luckily for me, there were no night raids, and I was able to save my energy for the next few days. And good lord did I need it. Once I was back online, I was happy to say that Logi players had resupplied our new relic base. However, there were still no builders to be found, so I took the opportunity to start building up our defences. I've never really been much of a builder, but I suppose I could give it a go. Oh my god, this fucking sucks! Right, I have to say this, just for patience alone, I have a new, profound respect for builders. Though, I do admit that while I was building, I did get a good shot of these mortar cars in action. I wonder what they're firing at. Leaving the builders behind, I grabbed my rifle and followed our friendly tanks into battle. Headed back to the northern side of the road, I began hunting for any would-be flankers that would try and get the drop on our forces and try and take our base. However, the further we got, the more armour we met. The Colonials were not happy that we took the relic base and they weren't going to let us take any more ground. I did happen to find more materials dropped by an enemy tank mechanic, so I deposited them back to our base for our own builders. Always remember that whatever materials you find in the field, your team can also use. As the day went on, with nothing incredible of note happening, our constant skirmishes with the enemy had left both sides low on armour, ammunition, and morale. So, instead I did what I usually do during sundown and went out scout hunting. When the enemy armour pushed our lines, it must have riled the infantry up something fierce because one or two gunmen trying to flank us? Yeah, that turned into full squads of enemy infantry. Fortunately, I had Lieutenant General Wiggles to help me fight off the scouts, pushing them further into the forest. There we are, down. Oh, no, he's still alive, hold on. Taking out my pistol and finishing off the injured Colonial, I was alerted by the sudden gunfire of Sergeant Rat Gaming, fighting another Colonial flanker. That is why you always bring a sidearm. Rat Gaming used his rifle and was outfired by the Colonial and his faster firing rifle. While on the subject of pistols in FOXHOLE, the default spawn ones on either side are practically the same, if not for their design. On both sides they have the same ammunition, accuracy, and rate of fire. Of course, for his bravery, I wasn't just going to leave Rat Gaming near the enemy territory, so I hurriedly carried him back towards our base for treatment. With my good day done for the day, I went, got resupplied and headed back to the north to hunt for more scouts. Except now, our enemy were ready, but rather than bringing rifles to the forest, they used SMGs instead. Much as I would have loved to have done the same, we were running low on resources. In the morning, I had learned that the scouts had been pushed back, and our infantry were ordered to follow the tanks to our next objective. On my way there, I noticed another soldier heading the same way. You'd need me to carry anything for you?
Yeah, this ARC RPG would completely get me down to 96%, thanks.
Got it.
I've just been harassing the tank destroyers.
Nice. What does WO2 mean? Have you been here since World War II?
Yes, I've been here since World War II.
Nice. Passing a group of nearby mechanics and seeing how heavily damaged the tank was, I knew that we would be in for a fight trying to take this next town.
I'll take that back now, thank you.
Yeah, sure. After helping Grandad deliver his equipment, I got a good look at our next hurdle. Or rather, the big fucking wall. This is the Bulwark. It starts from the left side of the map and snakes its way through all of the regions to the right side, coast to coast. While it has made life easier for me, most was, as it was this part of the wall that was protecting the next colonial checkpoint in the Greenfield orchard. Our enemy were dug in tight, and all I could really do was hope that their ammo and defences would run out before ours. But with 3 of our 4 tanks critically damaged and ammo running low, I feared we'd not be taking this town anytime soon. Taking a look at the other side was no better, as we'd have both infantry and the armour firing this way. As the night slowly rolled in, we were still no closer to passing through the bulwark. That was when, to our horror, the Colonials had been fully resupplied, and they started taking back their ground which we had fought so hard for. Low on both ammunition and tanks, our lines quickly faltered and we were forced back to our defensive position by the relic base. Returning to the northern line wasn't any easier, as now, not only were scouts quickly advancing, but enemy tanks were making rounds too. I did my best to hold off any scouts that headed my way, but even with reinforcements and ammo, and a will to drive back our enemies, a direct tank shot still slaps. The following morning, local Logi players had heard our pleas for help, and we were suddenly rearmed and ready to take the fight back to our enemy. The day went on as a constant skirmish between 2 well-armed infantry, pulling and pushing back at one another. What our enemy lacked in accuracy, they made up for in numbers though, as they would slowly push themselves, and push our warden reinforcements, further back to our defences. By the late afternoon, our enemy had retreated, not out of fear, but to rearm and regroup for the next night raid, which in all honesty probably would have set us back. Luckily for us, our tanks were fully repaired and rearmed, and ready to take the bulwark. Reaching our next hurdle, I took the opportunity to find a well enough position to fire at our enemies that were cunning enough to try and gas, grenade and push us back. Using what little influence I had, I made a marker on the map asking for more gas grenades to be used in this area. Right now, our only opposition we had to deal with was the infantry, as the enemy tanks had retreated to repair what damage had been done to them the night before. If we had enough gas grenades, we could easily take back the enemy trenches and pass through the bulwark. It seemed like my pleas for gas grenades had caught someone's attention, as more and more of the colonial forces had been choked back behind the wall. Seeing the dead colonials, I took the opportunity to try the other side of the fort. For now I thought that we were actually winning, until the artillery came in,
Nuke, got artillery on us.
wiping our forces, pushing us back. No. We had made it this far. We could not back down now. Pushing on through the artillery, we were through. We made it through the bulwark and we're now using the enemy trenches as our own. Steadying myself on a stone wall, I took aim at the approaching Colonials, desperate to send us away, but the Wardens weren't having it.
Here.
There I was, firing at any enemies that were either brave or stupid enough to try and rush us. here it was. The end of my push. It's a shame that I never got to see. Never get to see if we would take the colonial town. Looking up at the sky, I drifted away, wondering if all of our efforts would be... Never mind, war is back on! With every shot fired, our enemy will retreat back to their base, and our soldiers will push on, slowly taking back the region that was once ours. By nightfall, the town was ours. The colonial forces were pushed out of the region. We had taken back the Heartlands. I wish I could say it was the same for the rest of the war, but unfortunately, 2 in real life days later, the Wardens would submit their surrender, and the Colonials had won War 113. If you're interested to see how the last years of War 113 ended, I'll be linking videos in the description from other creators that enjoy playing this game, and professionally I should add. I know this video is a war behind, but I'd like to take the time to thank all of the Warden soldiers who participated in the war, as well as the recapture of the Heartlands, and to, of course, congratulate the Colonials for their hard-fought win of War 113. As for me, well, there's always going to be another war on somewhere. I wonder if the Colonials are taking on.